What's up guys, my name is Ace, and welcome back to another gun guide. This is the series where I go into great detail with all of the stats of every one of the guns in Modern Warfare 3. And in today's episode, we're finally getting into the sniper rifle category, and we're going to start it off with the XRK Stalker. And starting it off as always, let's have a look at our damage profile, or more specifically, our one-shot kill zones. I like to keep this part simple for sniper rifles, just so it's a lot easier to remember and understand. But from 0 to 47.8 meters, that's the maximum damage range. This gun will be a one-shot kill anywhere in the body aside from the legs, so it's actually pretty forgiving when it comes to that. However, beyond that, from 47.8 meters to 70.9 meters, now you lose the lower torso multiplier for a one-shot kill, but it's still fairly forgiving. Anywhere in the arm or upper torso will be a one-shot kill. And then beyond 70.9 meters, while you're technically dealing slightly less damage per body multiplier, it still has the exact same one-shot zones. So upper torso, arms, neck, and head, that's still going to be a one-shot kill. As for our rate of fire, the first thing I have to point out here is with bolt action and pump action weapons in this game, the ones that state they have a rechamber time as well, the actual rate of fire value stated in the advanced stats is just not accurate to what you actually experience in game. Because with the XRK Stalker, for instance, the in-game stats state that it has a rate of fire of 50 rounds per minute. However, when I manually check this, it's actually 39 rounds per minute, so significantly slower than what's stated. But just so you guys are aware, for this series, I'm going to be showing you guys the actual rate of fire, not what's stated in the in-game stats, so there might be a discrepancy there. But with this gun, there's also two bolt attachments that can have an impact on our rate of fire stats. The first one is the Stalker Heavy Bolt, which will reduce our real rate of fire down to 34 rounds per minute, whereas with the XRK Stalker Light Bolt, this will increase our rate of fire up to 52 rounds per minute. And that's an attachment I highly recommend and I use on every single one of my builds. Next, one of the most important stats with sniper rifles is our aim down sight time, and with the XRK Stalker, this is 610 milliseconds, which is slightly above average for sniper rifles in this game, but it is still a very slow aim down sight time, especially when you consider the fact that the average time to kill up close for like a full auto gun in this game is about 300 milliseconds. As for our Sprintout time, this is 283 milliseconds for our standard Sprintout time and about 417 milliseconds for our tactical Sprintout time. And honestly, these times aren't really all that relevant because they're only going to come into play with this gun when you're hip firing out of a sprint, which you generally shouldn't be doing with this gun. And speaking of hipfire, as you can see here, our hipfire spread is insanely wide with most sniper rifles, and the XRK Stalker is no exception here. So like I said, you generally just don't want to be hipfiring with this gun unless you're point blank range. Then let's get into our reload add time, and this is quite slow even for sniper rifles, which are already pretty slow at 2.52 seconds. So you really have to plan those reloads out appropriately. And then another stat that's important with sniper rifles that's generally not nearly as important with other guns is our swap speed. And this is 2.33 seconds with the XRK Stalker, which again is a bit on the slower side. Keep in mind, this can be improved if you use the quick grip gloves. Now, let's move on to another fairly important stat for sniper rifles especially, and this is our bullet velocity, which with the XRK Stalker, it's amazing at 860 meters per second. At least within the 6v6 maps, this should never be an issue for you whatsoever. That is a great bullet velocity. However, if you're playing like Ground War or something and you're really stretching your ranges out, you may end up having to lead some moving targets a little bit and account for a bit more bullet drop as well. Next, let's dive into our mobility stats, and across the board, we're right around average with the XRK Stalker when it comes to mobility. Aside from our aim walking movement speed, this is below average, but at the end of the day, aim walking movement speed isn't really an important stat when it comes to sniper rifles, just because it's so slow for all of them. Next up, another stat that's really important for sniper rifles that's generally not nearly as important for other guns in the game is flinch resistance. So let's have a look at the comparison here, and as you can see with the XRK Stalker and the Cat AMR, it's kind of right in the middle of the Modern Warfare 3 sniper rifles with flinch resistance. It's definitely something you want to be prepared for and aware of, and you may even want to cut down on it when it comes to your attachment selection. Also, of course, the marksman gloves can significantly cut down on your flinch, which is why just about any time I'm sniping, I'm also going to be using those marksman gloves. After that, another fairly important stat with sniper rifles is our idle sway, or how much the scope is going to be moving around when you're aiming down sight without holding your breath. And as you can see, it does swing around a fair amount with this gun. It's also a fairly fast swing. So this is just something you really want to be aware of, and you may want to cut down on this with attachments as well. Next up, another thing I wanted to look at with the sniper rifles is just a comparison of the default sniper optics, just so you can see like how much you're zooming in by default compared to the other snipers, as well as what the reticle looks like. And as we can see here, we zoom in the same amount as the Cat AMR, and it is quite a high zoom optic by default. And personally, I quite like this default optic, and I just tend to stick with this on my class setups. One last thing I'm going to tag in here I almost forgot to talk about is the explosive ammo. A lot of people have been wondering about this. Is it worth using? And with the XRK Stalker, unless you're trying to take out vehicles, which there are far better options that aren't sniper rifles for that, I wouldn't recommend using explosive ammo because, first off, it doesn't change our one-hit kill potential at all. It's still going to have the exact same one-hit kill zones. And second, the splash damage for a near miss, if you shoot like right next to their foot, for instance, first off, this splash damage has a very tiny range, and second, it's not dealing that much damage. It's highly unlikely you'll ever get a kill as a direct result of having this ammo on your gun, and therefore I just can't recommend it. I consider it to be a waste of an attachment. And with that, we can finally move into some excellent attachment combinations that I really like using on the XRK Stalker. And the first one I want to share for you guys is my balance build. I just really like using this for the 6v6 maps. And with this, we're using the Sonic Suppressor XL so I can stay off the radar when I'm firing, and this doesn't harm our aim down sight speed, which is very important to not harm too much. We have the Handler LKP Short Barrel, the Helix LV Light Stock, the XRK Stalker Light Bolt, which you're going to see on all of my class setups because it improves our fire rates, and then finally the Bruin Lynx Grip, which is going to help with flinch resistance and our aiming idle sway, which is quite important. And what that means with this build is our aim down sight speed is pretty solid for a sniper rifle at 507 milliseconds. You can quickscope with this, at least to a degree. Our sprint out time doesn't really change with this. Our flinch resistance is improved very nicely at 0.55 newtons, so we're not going to flinch nearly as much. We are sacrificing in the bullet velocity department. It's now about 680 meters per second, which may hold you back for some really long range shots, even on the 6v6 maps. But I mean, in most of the situations I put myself in with this build, that bullet velocity still isn't going to be an issue. And then, of course, we are staying off the radar when firing, which isn't the most important thing with sniper rifles, but with this particular build, I just thought that it suited it quite nicely. As for the second build I want to share for you guys, this one's designed to really lean in the direction of quickscoping. And with this one, we're once again using that Handler LKP Short Barrel. This time we're using the OLEV laser, which will only be visible when aiming down sight, but it really significantly improves our aim down sight speed, which is very important on a quickscoping build. So you do have to be aware of this. You don't want to be pre-aiming corners as often with this build because people will just see your laser and not want to come around the corner. For now, I've got the Helix LV Light Stock, and that's just because the no stock attachment isn't available to be unlocked at this point. It's bugged out, you can't unlock it, and this is just the next best option. Once that no stock attachment comes out, you may want to give that a shot for your quickscoping build. We once again have that XRK Stalker Light Bolt for that increased rate of fire, and I put the 7-round magazine on this as well, and even though that does slightly harm our aim down sight speed, which is what we really want to lean into with this, I just find that if you are quickscoping, you tend to be a lot more aggressive, and you want to have that ability to kill enemy after enemy after enemy, and for many people that are quickscoping, they want those kill feeds, and therefore having that 7-round magazine is going to help in that area. And with this build, our aim down sight speed is 496 milliseconds, which is quite solid for a sniper rifle. Our sprint out time is noticeably improved as well, even though it's still not very relevant. Unfortunately, our flinch resistance is harmed with this setup by a fairly noticeable margin, so you have to get on target and get that shot off before the enemies start pumping shots into you. Although if you are in really close quarter situations, it still won't be enough flinch to take you off target. And then of course we are harming our bullet velocity as well, but again, we're going to be playing mainly close quarters with this, and as a result, that bullet velocity isn't going to matter in most of the situations. Now finally, I've got one last build to share for you guys, and this one is my long range build. So this is designed primarily for you ground war players out there, or if you just want to pull this out on like the larger maps in 6v6 as well, like Wasteland for instance. This could also be a solid build if you just want to hang back and pick people off. And with this, we're using the XRK Stalker Factory Barrel, the Helix LV Light Stock, the XRK Stalker Light Bolt, the Bruin Lynx Grip, and then finally the high velocity ammunition. Now with this, we're still getting a rate of fire increase because we're using that same bolt. Our aim down sight speed is actually slightly slower than the base at 617 milliseconds, but it's not going to be as relevant if you're hanging back at like 100 meters from your target. Our sprint out time doesn't change, but it's irrelevant here. Our flinch resistance is massively improved with this setup, so even at really long ranges, if people are putting shots into you, you're going to have a much easier time staying on target and hitting that shot. And I would say most importantly with this build, our bullet velocity is incredible at 1,032 meters per second, which means even at really long ranges, this is going to feel like hit scan. You just put your sight on target, pull the trigger, and you'll get yourself a kill. And with that, that's finally going to wrap it up for today's gun guide on the XRK Stalker. As for my thoughts on this gun, it's definitely my favorite Modern Warfare 3 sniper in the game. I think it's just like the best all around. It's got a great one-hit kill zone, so hit markers are quite rare. It's got a better aim down sight speed, like significantly better at least compared to the Cat AMR, which is the other hard-hitting sniper that doesn't get hit markers often. And that just makes it the best all-arounder, at least in my opinion, and I really enjoy using this gun. Now, of course, these are just my opinions on the XRK Stalker, and I'd love to hear what you guys think about it in those comments down below. Also, if you guys have missed any of the previous gun guides, I will leave a link to the playlist in the description of the video. If you enjoyed this one, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.